Welcome everybody to AI for the Average Joe, season 4, episode 4, coming from the lovely, well, Hayley and I aren't coming from the lovely Portugal, but our guest today is coming from the lovely sunny Porto in Portugal. We have with us the wonderful Mark Hooley with us today. Hello, Mark. How are you?
Hello, Erica. I'm fine, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, and we are too. And you're doing so many great things. Mark is a teacher by trade and also effectively is the CEO of an organization called GOER that we're going to talk about on today's episode, which is doing some fantastic stuff in the tutoring assessment space. Mark, tell us about you, tell us about your background and what you do at GOER.
Sure, yeah. So, like you said, I am a teacher by trade. So, I've been working in education for about 18 years now. Started off in the UK, did my PGCE in Manchester, at University of Manchester. And then after a couple of years, just finding my way in teaching, learning my craft, I always knew I wanted to move abroad. So I did that whole classic thing of basically applying around the world. So to Thailand, to China, to Kenya, but then Portugal was actually the first place to come into me. So lucky enough, I got a role as a geography teacher at the Porto British School. And I taught there for roughly about 8 years. And in that time, I met my lovely wife, Carla, after 6 months actually being in Portugal. So I guess I was always staying here.
You're meant to be there. That was
Yeah,
it.
exactly. I had no choice, really. The plans to go to Brazil were out of the window. And then, yeah, so really at that time, sort of familiarized myself with the IB, the International Baccalaureate, which for me is a fantastic curriculum, probably for me the most effective curriculum that I've been able to teach students over the years. And yeah, over the time, sort of became head of humanities, familiarized myself with the curriculum, became CAS coordinator, but there wasn't really much scope for me to sort of move higher in the school. So at the time, there was a great position that came up in Barcelona. So after 8 years, I actually moved to Barcelona for 3.5 years to work at the Cognita flagship school, actually, which is the British School of Barcelona. And there I became IB coordinator, exams officer, and then actually worked in a competing school down the road, because then they actually started to deliver the IB program. So I was lucky enough to join a school where they were starting off with the IB, which I found very, very exciting. So yeah, that time in Barcelona was really great because it was like lots of new people, new connections, but also really finding sort of new ways to work in the IB and learn sort of new concepts to it. At that time, around about the time COVID obviously exploded onto the scene in 2020, unfortunately. But I say unfortunately, but in a way for online education, it sort of gave it that boost that it needed, right? There's no doubt about that. So with that in mind, I mean, I'd already sort of started my first edtech business in sort of online resources and materials for students, which was Flip Academy, which we may or may not talk about a little bit later. But I was already sort of like working into online education. But then at that point, COVID came, so I decided to move back to Portugal, and where I started to online teach for me now, which I still teach with the British Online School. And then really just started to sort of dive more into online education, find out what it was more about, and find out sort of like the validation systems in it, who was sort of supporting groups and trying to accredit groups, and couldn't really find too many sort of noticeable organizations out there. So decided to start GOER, and then here we are today now in this conversation.
Wow,
I
great story.
I love hearing your story from teacher to entrepreneur. It's just it always makes me smile actually. So it's not often that you see that kind of jump.
No, yeah, I mean, education, it's always a part of me. It's what I do, and I love it. But I knew like my mind wanted to go off into different things and different avenues, but also like meet different people. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love teachers and they're amazing people, and I've got some friends who are fantastic teachers, but I do like to meet people in different industries and different backgrounds. And obviously with yourself and the people that I've met through starting GOER, it's been fantastic for that, and the connections I've been able to make are just brilliant. So yeah, I like to try different things. Yep.
Yeah, great. So tell us more about GOER and how, because obviously you've done a lot. There's a piece that I represent, obviously from an AI perspective. You've got a couple of kind of thought leaders around AI. You've got your AI accreditation, is part of what you do. So talk to us a bit more about that and the importance that AI plays in a setup like GOER and what it enables you to do, perhaps that you wouldn't have been able to do before.
Yeah, sure. So GOER basically, I mean, it's the Global Online Education Regulators. So we're there to sort of recognize quality and support growth in online education. Now, what I did quickly realize is that when I was creating my standards and seeing the volume of sort of organizations that were out there to work with, I knew I would have to utilize AI in our practices, whether it be to refine the standards themselves, but also in the processes that we use in terms of our accreditation. Okay. So we use AI very, very heavily in our accreditation processes when we're sort of analyzing data, when we're looking at the sort of scale and sort of information that groups are delivering to us. We have to use AI to sort of manage that load, right? So we can deliver our sort of reporting and sort of insights effectively. So AI is really used quite heavily. So we have sort of 4 stages, sorry, in our accreditation process. We have sort of like the exploration phase at the start. So we explore with the group where they're at in terms of whether they're right for accreditation, whether they're in that correct position. Don't
And
really
this
need
is
to use AI.
accrediting the quality of tutors delivering online training and teaching, right?
Yeah, it could be tutoring, could be online schools, can be hybrid learning models, and indeed even we accredit digital learning platforms, right? Because many schools, whether
Yeah.
physical or online, are using digital learning platforms. But we won't really use AI so much in that exploration phase because that's more about sort of us trying to gain insight into the background of who they are as an organization, what where who and where have they been working and sort of like their present day situation. But then when we go into the evidence phase, we're sort of we're using AI to sort of help match their evidence against our principles and standards. Okay, so because it is such a big workload, and we try to, one thing that we do try to do is say our average accreditation process is kind of like 4 to 5 weeks. Which I've been an accreditor to for COBIS, Council of British International Schools. You won't be talking weeks, you'll be talking months, months and
Yeah.
months of accreditation. So AI really helps to deliver it in a very effective and quick fashion, if you like. But then post evidence, we then go into sort of like what we like to call the third stage is when we're sort of really going into evaluation. That evaluation and looking at our tiered recognition sort of levels of whether you're a starter, a builder, achiever, or a pioneer in your accreditation. And AI can help with that massively as well, because it can help us sort of really analyze that evidence in a stronger and actually more competent way than
Yeah.
actually a person would. But most importantly, Erica, is the person who makes the decision. It's
Yes.
always us who makes the decisions. It's
Yeah.
us. We have to go over it. We have to go through that information that AI supported us with in terms of crediting, but we always make the decision. So the AI is there to refine our decision-making processes, and that's what we use it for. And then finally, the fourth E, sorry, is sort of like we call it the envision stage. So we deliver our report and ultimately what the accreditation is. But again, very important for us, we like to stay with the group as a partner. So our AI helps us to create a sort of strategic roadmap for that group as well, going forward over the next 6 months, 12 months, and 2 years. And it can really give some very, very specific points that I think, thinking about, if you like, just a person accreditor in the past, I mean, they wouldn't just be accrediting, they'd probably be teaching at the same time or doing other jobs, having to home in on those specific sort of insights takes time. It takes a lot of effort, right? So AI can really sort of home in on that process. So we think we give a very sort of detailed and insightful report outcome at the end, yeah. And that's how we use AI.
It sounds to me, Mark, just listening to you, that you're really using it to elevate rather than replace. And I think that's a real key difference in education, in anything that we're doing. It's using AI to give you the insight, find your blind spots, pick up the things you haven't got time to find. But then it's just making sure that we're not forgetting that we're still the experts and we're being the critical thinkers and the decision makers at the end of it all. And I think that's a really important message as we utilize, especially because it sounds like you're using it for such an end-to-end kind of process, really, that it's almost making sure then that we're factoring that human in the loop piece, which we talk about quite a bit as well. And that's what kind of things. So with your teams, with the people that are producing these reports and the evaluations and the evidence, how are they finding that shift and applying that critical thinking? Because that's a big skill in itself, isn't it? It's kind of, we say we need to do it, but how do you think we can be supporting people to be able to do that well?
I think personally, from my experience, and look, we've been going for about a year, right, or just under a year. So we're in some ways you could still say we're finding our feet and refining ourselves and what we do. But I would say helping people to deliver the context of the organization they're working with as best as they can. So whatever sort of training or support there is in helping people deliver the correct context to the AI tool that they might be using, because context is everything, right? And AI can't work out the context unless we give it to them, unless we deliver it to them. So from my experience and my accreditors that we work with, I really sort of I don't nag them or badger them or have a go at them. I'm really like, please, can we get in as much context as possible about this organization? How long they've been going for, who they've been working with, what challenges they might have had. Just every little insightful part about their organization makes our accreditation more valid. So for me, it's about, how can we help people to deliver context as much as possible to AI? And for me, from my background in education, that's everything. It really, really is, because you start then to think about, well, if context isn't correct, then how good is actually my feedback? Because my feedback always has to take into context whether it's an organization or a school or even the individual learner themselves. It has to know the context of that person or organization. So that's how I would answer.
Love that.
And you've got assessors around the world, right, doing this stuff in lots of different countries. So how does that play into this in regards to AI adoption or use of AI? How does the culture impact that in regards to how they work? Or does it not? Is it just that we're human first working with AIs? It doesn't matter where we live. What's kind of your view on that?
For us, it really is human first. Really, that's what I've experienced. It's human first. We adopt a more humanistic approach, and we talk about, we have sort of not weekly meetings, but meetings sort of like once every month to discuss, right, what's our best approach of using AI. For example, what are the most effective prompts that we might give to it, and how do we word it better, and how do we, you said it perfectly there. And we do think about this, if we are in a different culture or working with a group from a different area, how do we word that more specifically for their environment, right? Because they're going to have a school in Saudi Arabia is going to have different constraints to a school in the UK, right? So we need to make sure that we word things in a fair and just way. And but we adopt the more human approach first.
Which is great. I think more and more people are kind of going, oh yeah, actually we are people, aren't we? And then we're tech users, not we are tech users and it's another piece of tech.
Exactly. It's and look, I think the thing for me as well with all of this is that AI is there for me primarily to help with the processes, help with what we're doing, but can just be a great tool for research, right? And even if you just see it like that, it's a research tool. It can refine your research. It can save you time. It can really, as Hayley said before, sort of fill in the blind spots perfectly. I think if you just view it like that, then you'll start to embrace it a bit more if you need to embrace it more and start to realize exactly how it can benefit you. And a great research tool for sure.
And the clients that you're working with, I mean, I think we all hear about, like in the Middle East, they're actually quite far ahead in adoption of tech like this compared to perhaps places in Europe or the UK. The EU Safety Act, AI Act just came out last year. We're quite far behind the curve. Does that play into kind of your assessment conversations in regards to how they're teaching with AI, how their tutors use AI, how they use it as part of their infrastructure? Is there any differences there?
Yes, in the UAE for sure, because actually Dubai has a no AI policy. So
does it? Oh, that's
interesting.
Dubai schooling, no AI at all.
I'm surprised to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, when they basically they came up with this probably approximately 10, 11 months ago, and when it did come out, we were all kind of shocked a little bit because, well, through one of my other companies, Flip Academy, we were working with one of the GEM schools out there, which is quite a well-known group of schools, and quite, you know, we associate that place with quite forward thinking and sort of trying to adopt new strategies to learning. But no, they just went pretty hardcore and went, no AI, we're not doing it. Because, well, from my perspective, I kind of understand in terms of education, and I'll just explain why in a little moment. But just go back to the original question. So obviously with Dubai not really adopting AI in their education, yes, then we start to see different levels of adoption, not just in that region, but then obviously with other areas as well. And look, yeah, there's no doubt in the education world there are schools and school groups that are embracing AI. They're using it or getting teachers to use it for planning and learning, for sort of assessment and assessment feedback, reporting. You know, they're using it where there might be other schools can be dependent on the demographic, let's say, of the school itself, maybe in the teaching staff, but there are other schools that still aren't going anywhere near it. They're not interested. That whether it's a culture, whether it's stemming from the top, there are still those massive sort of disparities, right, if you like, in terms of adoption. So it's what's the solution to that? The answer to that, I don't know. But I do have a suggestion in the sense that if AI is to be used more in education, which I think it will be, and indeed it should be, but I think the education system in itself needs to change.
100%.
That's a whole different conversation. Don't get me started on that one, Mark. It's so true. And just listening to you speak, my kids go to a digital first school, so they're quite far ahead and always have been really since they've been there in terms of what they've got access to and how they manage their curriculum and the rest of it. And they've adopted AI because they've already got so much infrastructure in place to manage it. So they're already digital. They've already, do everything through OneNote and SharePoint and MS Forms. It's all integrated into how they already deliver their curriculum. The kids have got access to it every single day on their own surfaces. It's really, they've got a lot of stuff. So for them to bring in AI tools to what they're already doing fundamentally for things like assessment and feedback was a no-brainer, because it's almost just a case of plugging in a new tool to what already exists. And I suppose a lot of schools aren't there. So without any digital infrastructure, to then bring AI in can, I guess, blow things out of the water just too far for some people.
Yeah, I mean, you look, I've always said as a school, you've got to play to your strengths, right? And if your strengths aren't tech or AI, that's completely fine. I mean, you might be a school that focuses more on the environment and sustainability, for example, and that's fine. But you certainly have to start realizing where AI can add value. And in particular, where it can add value for me, again, is helping us to actually understand our students better and understanding it, for example, like their baseline grading and where they are to begin with at the start of, say, each curriculum stage, whether it be Key Stage 2, Key Stage 3, 4, 5. AI is I think, to play a massive part in really helping us understand what are the strengths and what are the possible areas for development of each learner, for example. But yeah, where I was probably going off at is that education, you can't have AI coming into an education system that doesn't work effectively with AI, right? So I think my best example of that is probably like around assessment, and maybe even independent study, or if you want to call it homework, if you like. I mean, the amount of times, so I still go into schools sometimes, just like a little bit of consultancy work and stuff, and to help particularly with IB areas. The amount of times that I still see teachers that are setting homeworks that might be like to, write an essay response to the impact of tourism on a national park, whatever. And I just say, guys, they're going to use AI to write that, right? And even if they don't, if the final piece they bring into you might put it through a humanizer or something. and it comes out as 99% human written, fine. You know that they could have just got AI to write it, and then they just reframed it or reworded it or whatever, or they've humanized it. Why are we still setting homeworks what AI can do? Like, why are we doing it? And therefore, why do we still have assessments that AI can do, right? So why not make a shift perhaps to assessment? One idea of mine would be to make it more presentational. So they have to present their assessments, which actually would make more sense even in the real world anyway, if you like. I mean, you look at exams now that still happen. The exams are obviously coming up this summer. These children are going to be old school, writing their exams, 2.5 hour papers. They're never going to write for 2.5 hours ever again. It's never, you and I haven't done it. I can't remember the last, I actually wrote a letter the other day and it was really therapeutic, right? Because like, it was great. It was so relaxing. It was great. But
that's a novelty now, though. Like you said, like, when do you do that? Never.
Yeah, I never do it. And that's because the world we're in, right? But these children are never going to do that kind of assessment.
Yeah.
So, and how do I get away from them being able to tap into AI to give them answers? Well, let's make it presentational. So maybe an idea is to, more assessments that are presented, and then at least we start to give them more soft skills of being able to actually talk to people. I mean, actually interact with people, because the more and more I see that young people, like, they just struggle to interact. They struggle to converse with people. So I really do think if AI, in my perspective, obviously needs to be part of education, because if we don't have it there, I think we're missing out on a trick. But at the same time, we can't add it until we actually do have that educational shift, which is why I think it will happen. I think, it's not just me thinking this.
Like chicken and egg, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, what's going to come first? Yeah.
It has to.
Yeah. And also, Mike, to your point around neurodivergent kids as well. Like, actually, I would rather record a podcast and give you that recording to demonstrate my understanding of a topic rather than sit down and write a paper. Or, I'd love to create a really creative PowerPoint for you and present that back and talk to you about it.
It's way more effective, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and we see the same in recruitment, particularly in corporate. Like, there's still that kind of type your CV into an applicant tracking system or your LinkedIn profile or whatever it is. It's like, actually, I'd rather my covering letter, which I can't believe still exists, covering letter, let me record you a video so you can see the kind of person I am, rather than my scruffy handwriting,
Yeah,
just play to your strengths, and we're just not doing that.
Yeah, get a feel for the person, what they're like, and
you get so much more from that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So until we see that shift, which I'm sure governments will be thinking along those lines. At the moment, it's kind of like, well, we've still got that educational system that's not right for AI, I suppose. So we need the right people in the right places to make those decisions.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mark, what would be your advice then within education, to thinking about the teachers, thinking about the leaders trying to implement this, but without kind of, like you say, the curriculum or anything to support them doing so? What would be your piece of advice or your tip to people in these education environments around how can we embrace it in a way that feels within their control?
I think I would simply say, don't be scared to use AI, like I said, for your research tools, for your planning tools, and don't be scared to allow your learners to use those tools, AI, for those tools as well. I mean, that's for me, that's pivotal. Don't be scared to introduce AI as part of assessment, but remember to have that humanistic part about it. Okay, and if you can find a way to marry the two, then you're onto a massive winner, because then you're giving your learners, like literally just said, so two key elements. You're giving them exposure to AI and working with AI, but then you're also helping that learner develop those soft skills, develop those communication skills, develop those skills to not just talk, but also hopefully develop things like empathy, okay, and emotional intelligence, right? So if you can be the kind of teacher that embraces AI, brings it into your practices, but remembers to marry it with those special human touches that we have, then I think you're not just a good teacher, you're a great teacher. And I think that's what we need more of. And rather than testing memory, trying to test understanding, I think would be what I'm trying to go for.
Great advice. Yeah, thanks, Mark. That's brilliant.
Cool.
And teachers get a hard time, don't they? And I don't think that changes whatever country. I mean, Hayley's a teacher by trade. I've got best friends who are teachers, and some of them are no longer teachers because it's like, what happens? And it's just the
I don't
stress
think there's many
levels.
that would turn down a time-saving exercise, to be
Right?
honest.
Yeah,
It's just finding the best way to use it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So save yourself time so you can actually,
Focus on the
I mean,
kids.
go off and be outside, enjoy the fresh air, and then that helps your creativity as well, right? I mean,
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
a cliche, but a happy, healthy teacher is a good teacher, right? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's what we need more of. So that's
Yeah.
it's massively important. Yeah.
Thanks,
We
Mark.
we've got this kind of big tsunami on the way, which is the future of jobs and skills and how the reshaping. We're already seeing data from Anthropic and organizations that's saying we're not seeing the displacements in jobs, but we're absolutely seeing the reshaping of work and jobs, and the future being very different to what we're all kind of used to. And AI is going to be a massive lever of that. So mindset, particularly for our educators.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, they're
it's
going to be at the forefront, aren't they?
Yeah.
those two curves, right? Where industrial revolution jobs are going like
Yeah.
that, then
Yeah.
technological revolution's going like that, right? And
Yeah.
more people just, it might be easy to say, but learn to adapt yourself, and be open to it. And if you can do that, then you're halfway there. So
Yeah,
don't be scared of
absolutely.
it, for sure.
Yeah. And what you were saying there, Mark, around like working with AI to give myself time to go out and have a bit of sunshine and have some fresh air, or go for a walk, or do the school run, or manage a health condition, or do something that I love doing, or that I call it an AI dividend, that incremental benefit, that personalized benefit.
Yeah.
I think that's the way we've got to go with this. Corporate education, wherever, really. Like if I was to run for president, it would all be about this. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, I know we talk maybe going over the time, but no, my future plans are certainly AI with the elderly.
Okay.
I have just like we probably all do. I had experience of my grandma in her later years. She was very lonely, very sort of on her own, not much company, and I really feel that AI can fill a gap there to support the elderly. So actually, like I do have some future business plans of how AI can support the elderly population, because I think like you just said, it's there to give us that time, support, and if we can find a way that AI can support our elderly, can support that sort of demographic within population, I just see the emotional impact we're having on people, and the support, and that for me is, I'm getting a bit sad here, but like I don't feel like anyone should get to that age, an older age, and feel lonely and be alone. And if I think AI can help with that massively. So that's sort of future planning with all of this.
It's an epidemic, though, isn't it? And it's not just older people. And I think this would be, Mark, you'll have to come back and tell us more about
We'll have
your
to do
business
another
plans.
episode on this, you two, because otherwise we'll go down a rabbit hole.
I want to hear more about Mark's business plans.
I know. We'll have to keep that as a cliffhanger.
Yeah. Time for part 2 for sure. Love that. Okay, well, we're rapidly running out of time, but as always, we could always continue these conversations much more, and it's great to hear about your thinking and everything you're doing as well, Mark. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today. If people want to get in touch, want to learn more about GOER, Flip Academy, future plans, how do they get in contact with you?
Well, best way is to access our website, which is www.goeronlineeducationregulator.org, and there you can always sort of directly contact myself or someone on the team, and we quickly get back to people normally within the hour. So yeah, any information you want to find out about particularly GOER, just contact us through that avenue if you can.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you so much for today's conversation. I'm always amazed. I know I say this every time and I'm getting a bit of a stuck record, but I'm always inspired and admire the different lenses that people bring to using AI on average, Joe. And again, we've heard from Mark today, very much from the education system and where we think things should be going and the impact of our future workforce and all that great stuff. So thank you, Mark, for sharing that.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Great. And thank you for watching. And we will see you on the next episode of AI for the Average Joe. Thanks very much.